It's time for the Game Show Fans Podcast with Josh and Danny. Hello and welcome to the Game Show Fans Podcast. I am Joshua McCloud here as always, and with me is my compatriot,
Danny Lewis.
Next to him is...
Dylan, say your name.
Yeah, hi, I'm Comedy Fan 74.
That works. And standing next to Comedy Fan 74 is...
And this is YouTube's X Factor Gaming.
And we're all here... Oh, and I guess I'm not Undercover Cop 327, and I'm here with Game Show Fan 2001. And we're here to discuss 4 very obscure game shows. We call them obscure because they are obscure, not very well known. And we've each what we've done is we've each picked a game show, and we're going to use our magical random number generator, which is weird because magic and randomness don't typically go together. But we're going to use that to determine who's going to go first, and we're going to each talk about our game shows, and we're each going to give our own thoughts because we each watched everybody's game show. At least I hope we did.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and let's see. Our lucky number 1 will be... Number 3, that's you, D. That's you, Comedy Fan.
Damn. Okay.
You got the best one, though, so...
Yeah. So, Ruckus. It's like a really weird let's make a deal, beat the clock kind of show. That's not the first failure by Merv Griffin. I never really wrapped my head around Ruckus, what it's supposed to be exactly. I don't know if it was supposed to be like a stunt show, a audience participation show, or the host just walking around like he's part of a double act.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a variety show.
That's what they were going for.
And Dylan, tell us about the host of the show.
The host of the show, his name is the amazing Jonathan. I am not joking. That is his name, but his real name is John Cezels.
That's okay. You don't have to have the name exactly.
He is a stand-up comedian. He is mostly known for his hijinks and interacting with audience members.
He's a stage magician.
Yeah. So he may seem like a good fit for the show, except that he is actually the one reason why I felt uncomfortable when watching the show.
Has he hosted? Do you think he did a good job as a host?
Yes and no.
He did. I mean, it was basically weird kind of variety show games because they would have contestants come up on stage and do sort of kid things like sit in a what do you call those buckets that they like a mop bucket and be pushed around by another contestant and have to pick up pieces of soap with those like claw toys we had as kids. And put them into things, and just sort of kind of weird variety. Since it changed from episode to episode, it was sort of like a beat the clock meets let's make a deal type show.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's basically that, which I am always confused on.
But at the beginning of the show, they had that thing where he showed a card that said, "I like red-skinned potatoes on plates on sour."
Yeah, he always did some magic shtick.
Okay, that's what that was.
Yeah.
I always did it, and then occasionally they would have kind of a sketch. Like I remember they had one where they had a guy from the audience, and they blindfolded him, and Jonathan held up some fingers. He's like, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And he guessed it correct every time, and so they kept putting different methods to blindfold him, and he still kept guessing every time.
And what channel was this originally on?
WNBC TV. it was on it was supposed to be on in syndication if the show got renewed for a second season, but the show did not get renewed for a second season because a lot of people watching it were very confused on what it was actually supposed to be, a game show or a variety show or another amazing John routine.
Okay.
I think
it was on.
Go ahead.
You're saying it was on. I'm sorry. You're saying it was on NBC.
WNBC TV.
Was that a affiliate of what?
That was like a quote unquote syndication channel, or I may be actually stupid, and it was actually NBC.
Okay.
He did have a thing with NBC at the time, so it's possible.
Yeah, and this may be the first on-air failure that was created by Merv Griffin.
What was that? Well, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Headline Hunters.
Headline Hunters.
His next on-air failure would be Merv Griffin's Crosswords.
I always thought Player Hunch was his first on-air failure.
Well, that one, A, it did pretty well, and B, he hosted it. I don't know if he produced it.
Merv Griffin did host the show Camouflage back in the '60s, and he was good. The show was good.
And so overall, do we think Ruckus was a good show, or was it just too confusing for the good of it?
Way too confusing for its own good.
Okay.
I liked it.
I'd probably agree with Dylan on this one. It was a little confusing, but sometimes shows have to be like it.
It's like that kids game show Scramble that aired a year before or a year after.
I haven't heard of that.
I've seen Cindy's review of that. Yeah, from what I can tell, too confusing to last. I'm actually surprised Scramble got picked up.
Yeah, it was a football-themed game show hosted by
Randall Cunningham.
Yeah. Who wasn't really a host, he was really just a football player.
No, and when we're talking about Cindy, we mean the great Cindy Seidelman of GameShowGarbage.com. We'll put a link to it in the description.
You'll hear a lot of references to that show.
Oh, the great Seidelman.
Right.
All right. We want to move on to show number 2?
Oh, yes.
Who's it going to be? Number 4, I think that's me.
It's me.
Oh, it's you, Rich? Oh yeah, go ahead. You got the second best show, so go ahead.
So, Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. If you've ever wondered what it would be like if you took Match Game and Hollywood Squares, put it into a blender, and absolutely screwed it up, this is it.
I feel like this one's going to be the longest discussion we have, but go ahead.
That's fine.
That's okay, I got all
It would have been good except for, to me, one glaring omission at host for the main thing. Or one glaring problem at host. Bowser.
Or John Bauman.
I was just thinking about this a minute ago. I think it'd been better if Gene had done both shows by himself.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I don't know. I mean, it probably would have been better, to be honest. I don't know how Gene would have felt about hosting Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, I heard that behind the scenes, Gene was not well behind the scenes.
What do you mean?
He felt dragged into the Match Game Hollywood Squares hour.
He was unhappy with it. Yeah.
And I heard that Gene and Bauman really didn't like each other behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay. Rich, describe the format of the show.
Okay, this is probably going to be the easiest part to describe. The first half is the Match Game PM kind of thing, where you have your 3 rounds. I think it goes best 2 out of 3 rounds.
No, I think it's
whoever
it's
has
the PM form. It's the Match Game PM format.
Yeah, whoever has the most points again.
Basically, 3 rounds, most points wins. It's your regular Match Game fill in the blank affair. Hollywood Squares, on the other hand, got totally what's the word I'm looking for?
butchered.
That was a word.
Butchered.
They botched Hollywood Squares because, well, Hollywood Squares is supposed to be lighthearted, comedic. It isn't supposed to be serious. Just like Match Game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yet Merv Griffin wanted
Mark
a
Goodson.
serious Hollywood
Mark
Squares.
Goodson. It was
You mean
Mark
Mark
Goodson.
Sorry, Mark Goodson. Yeah, Mark Goodson wanted a serious Hollywood Squares, which would have never worked anyway. And basically, Hollywood Squares got the shaft into the stick.
Why was it so bad? Go into detail why it didn't work on this version, whereas it worked in the previous.
With Hollywood Squares, you would think, like Cindy said, it would have been a match made in heaven if they had stuck to the original Squares format. Like, something she said is something I've noticed that I had agreed with her on, and that's in this version of Hollywood Squares, you should not have gotten a square if you're about to have a win. And your opponent gets the question wrong, you shouldn't get the square. They never did that on any other version of Squares.
Yeah, they made
Not even the British
they made them win by
Squares.
Yeah.
And that's partially what could have messed it up.
And don't forget getting rid of the pre-scripted Zinger
Yes.
jokes.
And I heard that was that made a thing because Mark Goodson hated any of his shows being any form of scripted beforehand, but that's what made Hollywood Squares work.
That is the biggest sore thumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
But overall, I don't think it's that terrible of a show. It could have just used a little bit of work to make it better. Mainly getting rid of Bauman and letting somebody else handle the Hollywood Squares part, not named Mark Goodson.
I agree with Rich.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you can see what they were trying to do.
But the good thing about Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour is that as of the moment we're recording this, tomorrow, well, the next day after we record this, Buzzer will be showing some episodes of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
And I've checked my TV guide; they're not listed past tomorrow either.
VTR date 02/16/19.
Well, hey,
Like, it's the 3-hour marathon is it unless Dish Network and Dish and Buzzer haven't decided when they're going on yet.
Or if you're in a foreign country and if you have a VPN, and you want to watch the stream online on the official site, yeah.
You know, there was a guy that went to my school that hated people with VPNs. He doesn't go there no more.
I still don't know what a VPN is.
Virtual private network.
I still don't know what that is. Yeah.
That's okay. It's not that important. We can talk about it when we stop recording.
That being said, 3-hour marathon. Okay, so
3-hour marathon and they're an hour each, so it's like
3 episodes. 3 episodes is better than no episodes. So
I'm just wondering where they're going to put this on. I mean, they have an amazing spot right after Match Game to use.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can delve into this just for a few minutes. Are there any shows, just one show, quick comment, no more than that. Is there any one show on Buzzer you wish they didn't air? Oh, damn it, I already know what everyone's going to say, but we'll do it anyway. I'm guessing everyone's going to say, so 1, 2, 3, it begins Temptation. Yeah.
No, actually, I've said
really?
About that. I'm not saying it again.
Okay, so never mind. I thought we were going to go somewhere with this discussion, but this is just going to be us.
Well, Temptation is up there, but it's not number 1.
What's number 1?
The same show GSN is guilty of spamming a million times a day.
Family Feud.
I understand that you want people like Feud, but the term rerun of Feud gets thrown around a lot. It fits here.
Yeah. Well, at least they're not rerunning the Steve Harvey version over and over again. At least we get some variety. We get to watch
Louis Anderson.
No. Keep the Louis version off for good.
What about the Richard Karn version?
I don't have any problem with it. I have no issues with the Karn version. I liked it.
I grew up watching the Karn version and reruns of Dawson and Combs on the Game Show Network.
Combs will always.
When it was
I think Dawson and Combs will always be tied for my favorite on the feud host scale.
All right, well, let's not get too off topic here because we don't want to talk about the feud host for the rest of the show.
Do we want to end on a high note or do we want to end on a mediocre note? Because I feel like you want to end. Do we need to finish our discussion of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour?
I'll just say that it's watchable, but nothing too special about it.
Yeah.
And it lasted for about a year on NBC.
Needed a gimmick. Anyway.
And a better host.
Yeah. All right. Who's gonna go next? Is it gonna be me or Danny? Ooh.
All right.
Drum roll, please.
I can't believe we're going to end on a winning streak. Go ahead, Danny, you're up. Get that. And lest I forget, because I know where this is going, these aren't necessarily shows that we like, that we picked. These are shows that are obscure in nature. So I'm doing that as a preface because I really want to emphasize that before Danny says his show. Go ahead, Danny.
Okay. The show that I did was called The Moment of Truth. And it was a show where, but before the show starts, the contestant gets a polygraph test and is asked, one time it was 50 questions, but then in the next season it was 100 apparently. But anyway, on the show, they ask 21 of the same questions only on the show in front of like several of their family members, friends, whatever, on a bench on the set, a la Deal or No Deal, I suppose. And a lot of these questions, they get more personal as the show progresses. Okay?
Yeah, like...
And some of them can be very embarrassing. Yeah, Josh, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, like, they start out kind of lighthearted and fun, like, have you ever bought an illicit toy at a store? Like, okay, that's kind of fun. And then they get really, really personal and really, really kind of intrusive.
Like the infamous Lauren episode where she revealed that she had been cheating on her husband with somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a very controversial episode, and that was one that the host, Mark Wahlberg of Russian Roulette fame, who we all know and love, before that episode aired, they showed a pre-tape segment where he was like, hey, I was really uncomfortable with this, and if it was up to me, this wouldn't air, but here it is. And some of the questions aren't that bad, like the round one question, one of them was, as an employee of a hair salon, have you ever told a customer you liked their hairstyle when you didn't?
But I'm not sure what show was more torturous to watch, if it was this or if it was either The Chamber or, well, I haven't seen The Chair, so I can't comment on it. Or no, I haven't seen The Chamber. Okay. So I'd go with, is The Chair more torturous or is this more torturous to watch?
The Moment of Truth. Well, The Moment of Truth was not just torturous for the people watching it, it was also torturous for the people playing it at times.
Yeah, whereas The Chamber was just like you do it, yeah, it's dangerous.
And The Chair.
And The Chair, whereas it's like, I actually didn't hate The Chair. It wasn't great, but it wasn't unwatchable. I think with The Chair, though, it's like you're in the chair for 10 minutes, and that's kind of sucky. And then,
safer.
And then you get out of the chair, and then with The Chamber, yeah, it's dangerous for like 4 minutes, and then you get out of the chamber. With this, it's like, we go on national television and expose what a horrible person you are.
Sounds like Jerry Springer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Jerry Springer a la game show.
So, or Baggage, although Baggage is way more watchable.
Yeah.
Oh, Baggage is fun to watch, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
One of my favorite shows, actually. But yeah, The Moment of Truth, it was panned by critics and a lot of people in the game show fandom. Yeah. And what it did was they made 3 seasons of it, only 2 of which aired on television, but the 3rd season has been uploaded on YouTube by the production company Lighthearted Entertainment for everyone to watch.
Lo the irony of their name.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Lighthearted. Oh.
Lighthearted,
Yeah, we'll say it.
Yeah.
That show was anything but.
Yeah.
Watchable.
Lighthearted.
Oh, lighthearted.
It was also anything but watchable.
Oh, yeah.
True.
I mean, I'd watch this over MG Squared, if you ask me, but...
Oh, at least that pilot had some semblance of, fun and it was fun to watch just for how terrible it was.
Yeah. This is like watching The Moment of Truth is like, people always say like watching a train wreck, but it really is like watching someone get their life ruined. It really is kind of like watching a train wreck.
I bet Mark Wahlberg probably would have liked it better if every time they told a lie on the show, they dropped him through a hole.
Yeah.
That would be more entertaining.
Or it would be like the lie detector on Meet the Parents, or whatever the hell that reality show was back in 2003, where you have that guy. Remember that guy? That guy needed a spin-off, but the lie detector guy who would give like the thumbs down angrily if they lied.
I think they should probably have done something like this on Friend or Foe to make it more interesting.
Oh, if you went foe when you would say that you went friend. I got you in there. But yeah, that's pretty ironic though, because I guess if you wanted someone to host a game show about untrustworthy people, you'd want Kennedy for The Moment of Truth, but no, they picked Mark Wahlberg, someone who also was on the GSM in 2002.
Can you imagine Kennedy hosting
It'd be a lot
moment of
better.
truth.
Moment
Yeah,
of
but
truth.
she would. She always felt like somebody that liked to exploit, like kind of get people out. Like I don't know if I necessarily. Like I mean, again, she's a great host of kind of friend or foe. But when you put her in a situation where she has to host a show like The Moment of Truth, you have like, ooh, I don't know if I want her bringing out the worst in people after they've admitted that they've had extramarital affairs on national television.
Meanwhile, Mark Wahlberg, he just kind of kept his mouth shut and went with the game rather than exploiting people.
And he said in an
where
interview.
did that land Wahlberg? On the worst reincarnation of any show I've seen in years. The 2019 Temptation Island.
Oh crap! Why is that show even revived?
I'm asking the same question. I was watching that with a internet friend the other night. He and I both agree. Why does this show exist? And much less, why does it exist on USA?
I think
here's
because,
the
Mark-
best reason. Here is the best reason.
Go ahead.
The production company is like, excuse me, sir, you have some change.
I mean, they've already got wrestling on that channel. That's enough of reality.
I think Mark just wants another paycheck. I don't blame him.
Hey, we all need
then
money.
Go back to GSN and Sony and beg them to
Remake
revamp
Roulette.
Russian Roulette.
I'd like to see that happen.
I think we all want to see
I'd like
that.
to see Whammy get a revamp. I don't think it lasted long enough.
I want to see Lingo back on the air.
Yeah.
They tried.
Last
They
time,
tried.
Lingo
And
got
look how bad it turned out.
last time Lingo got brought back, we all know what happened. But
And that led to Chain Reaction getting revamped and flopping.
I liked the Chain Reaction remake better than the Lingo remake. I mean, granted, not
Which
a tough
Chain
part.
Reaction remake? The terrible 06 one or the 2011-2012 one?
The one with Dylan Lane. The one that was like, oh, okay, this wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible.
I agree.
Dylan was the worst part of that show.
Agreed, but, you know, it wasn't
Yeah.
bad. It wasn't like he made the show unwatchable.
And the gameplay actually made more sense than the 70s version, some would say.
I think so.
I'm not
Yeah,
much of the
somewhat.
70s, 80s versions.
Do we want to move? Do we have anything else we want to say about the train wreck that was The Moment of Truth?
Well, all I have to say is Mark R. Wahlberg, you did a good job. But other than that, the game was a train wreck.
I couldn't
Kill it.
stomach it.
Kill it with fire, and by kill it with fire, I mean destroy all the tapes.
We could wipe them. Inside joke.
That's night.
Okay,
If only the tapes were wiped.
No, I'm saying we
I said
could.
that last night.
I'm saying we could wipe the tapes. Like, I mean, we could use the actual Mylar and use them to wipe ourselves.
That's not what I meant last night, but that's how it was taken.
Okay, yeah, sure. I personally wouldn't do it, but this is what those guys.
Speaking of shows that were wiped, we end on a show where we literally found one episode that still exists, and it is called Winning Streak from 1974.
And only one episode existed because of the Watergate scandal.
Oh, if it weren't for the Watergate, no episodes would exist.
We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for Watergate, we wouldn't be on this podcast.
Winning Streak, which was a show hosted by the great late Bill Cullen, that aired for like one season, one very, very forgettable season. Created by the great late Bob Stewart, also. I'm sure I'm saying great late a lot. Anyway, but the object was you were given a grid of about 16 letters, usually containing a variety of vowels. You'd pick a letter and you'd be asked a question, sort of like Blockbusters. That'd be like, what eye is the organ in your body that digests food? And the answer would be intestines. And then if you got it right, it would be added to your grid of letters. And the first person to make a word that fit into a category got to go on to the bonus round. And then they would have to play another round like that. And then that point it became like Boggle, where they would have letters, and they would show a letter. You'd have to come up with a word that contains those letters. So you'd have like the letters M-E-N, and you'd have to come up with at least one word that contained all those letters. And then they would add another letter to that, like I, and so you'd have to come up with another word that contained all those letters. And it would keep going until someone couldn't think of a word. And then the bonus round, yeah, we're all thrilled, I'm sure. The bonus round ended with you would pick a random value on the board, and it would have a certain amount of money behind it. And the big thing was you could win like $50,000. That was the big draw of it. It would double. You'd pick a word. You'd pick a letter, a tile, and behind it would be a letter. and you have to come up with a word that has a letter in it, and then they would add another. Then you'd pick another one, another letter, another tile, and another letter, and you'd have to come up with another word that contained both letters, and so on and so forth. And every time you were able to come up with a word successfully, you got your money doubled. And it continued like that until you wanted to quit. And if you couldn't come up with a word, you lost all your money.
Or failed to come up with a word.
Right. And if you fail to come up with a word, you lose all your money. Very, very dry format.
Yeah. But one thing I remember about the one episode that exists is, well, didn't one of the contestants answer their questions with "What is blank?" a la Jeopardy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was sitting here screaming at the screen, "This isn't Jeopardy!"
Yeah.
What was the show where it was literally just Bill Cullen, Dick Clark's show.
Pyramid.
No, the one he did after Pyramid.
Winning Lions?
No, it was
Challengers?
Challengers, thank you, where contestants more often than not would answer in the form of a question because it was so similar to Jeopardy. To the point where he went on, like, Letterman or some talk show, and he's like, yep, we're basically ripping off Jeopardy.
I remember that happening on Password Plus, so, like, somebody was trying to solve the puzzle.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Alan looked at him and said, "Do you think we're on Jeopardy here?"
That sounds familiar.
And then Alan says, "Is it Jeopardy?" And then he realizes this is not Jeopardy. And then he says, "Is it the celebrity's guess?" And it also wasn't it.
What did the puzzle answer end up being?
I think it was Nadia Comaneci. Well, she did. She was a gymnast. She got 10s. I think that's what it was. I don't know for sure.
Oh, I remember that puzzle now.
Okay.
Now, one thing we found out about Winning Streak was that it was similar to Blockbusters, and I think it's kind of ironic that both of those shows were hosted by Bill Cullen.
Mm-hmm.
And both they were on NBC.
I believe I also compared it to the board game version of Boggle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all conclusively say that I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody. I certainly feel this way. Blockbusters was better than Winning Streak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, obviously, it lasted longer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, a lot of shows last long doesn't mean they're better.
And more episodes exist.
Across what? 2 hosts? 3 hosts? How many hosts?
Of what? Blockbusters?
Blockbusters.
2.
2 hosts. Only 2 hosts.
Bill Rafferty.
I still think the Cullen version beats the Rafferty version.
Probably.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Then again, I'm not a fan of anything Bill Rafferty. I think it's
Really?
too dry.
Okay. We all have our hosts we don't like that are beloved.
I mean, I don't not like him. I just don't like his hosting style.
Okay. Well, I don't like
Michael Strahan.
Well, yeah, I mean, Michael Strahan's not a host. He's just like an amorphous blob of human existence that takes up time on my screen.
Okay. The opinions of Josh don't necessarily reflect the opinions of the others.
What was
I like Strahan as a host, so
Okay.
yeah.
I guess statistically speaking, someone.
Yeah,
does.
I like him as a host as well.
John O'Hurley is one where he hosted a lot of things. I'm like, I mean, he's fine. He does an okay job, but he never really struck me as anything spectacular.
I met him at a Comic-Con convention 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. If you meet him again, you'll have to tell him he talked about you on a podcast. You should listen to it.
We said mean things about you. We said not mean things. We said indifferent things about you on a podcast.
I think his best work was Family Feud.
I thought he was okay. Then that's kind of my problem with the Family Feud. Is it's literally
to tell
like
the straight 2000 really wasn't my thing. So.
But he just sort of was like put in those roles.
You think he was just there?
Yeah, that's what I feel. Thank you, Dan.
Kind of like Lynn Swan on Truth 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, Alex Trebek. Even though I liked them both.
Trebek actually did a really good job with what he was given there.
Well, Trebek was hosting 3 shows at once there, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. There was Jeopardy, then Concentration, and Truth.
Truth.
Yeah.
Was it actually called Classic Concentration?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Why would they call it
Why?
that?
I'm not.
I think it's to distinguish it from the original because I want to say the original didn't have a bonus round.
We could call it.
Because the game itself is a classic.
Okay. Well, I feel like you could have just called it
And because
Concentration.
they didn't add a bonus round until the classic version.
No, they had a bonus
From what
round on
I've seen
the.
in the original, I don't remember there being a bonus round.
There was, but it was totally different. It was like they gave you 2 different puzzles and you had to solve both of them in like 10 seconds.
Ooh, that sounds impossible.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts on Winning Streak or any of the 4 shows we talked about?
Watch the Moment of Truth.
Don't.
No.
Unless you want to torture yourself, don't.
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
We're archiving this for
Subscribe
future
to,
sake.
It's subscribe to all our YouTube channels. We'll put links to them in the description.
And I guess that's it. So,
Like, comment, subscribe, all that.
on behalf of the Game Show Fans podcast, remember it's hard to see the end when you're beginning. Take care.